All right. It sounds like I can hear Dr. Gladys
I'm
McGarey.
here. Yes, I'm right here.
How are you? I can't see you yet, but I can hear you, which is great.
Well, I can't see me either yet, but
Well, we're gonna hopefully your son John, who happens to be right next to you, I'm sure he can help you out with the video, and if not, we're gonna have to go without seeing you, but it's great to hear your voice.
yeah. Well, I'm here and he's here and we're working on it.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'll give you another minute or so to work on it, and we'll get started.
All right.
All right. Well, Dr. Gladys McGarey, or as I like to call you, Nani, it's great to see you and great to see your face.
Well, it's great to be here.
Now, I want to thank you so much for taking your time, taking the time to spend with us in our community. There's a lot of different people here, and I want to first and foremost say that this has nothing to do with my business or anything about the markets or anything that I'm involved in, other than your and I personal connection.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy that we can spend a little bit of time with you and introduce you to my circle of people, if you will, and allow them to understand how influential you've been, not only to me, as I've told you in the past, you're probably one of the most influential people that I've ever met, and positive and most positive influence in my life. But for so many people around the world, that I think that it's important that people hear your story, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I do want to just say that if anybody listening in has some questions for Dr. Gladys McGarey here throughout the course of the next let's call it half an hour to an hour, please feel free to write them down. I'm going to try to get to them maybe towards the end if she has the energy and the time to spend with us and answer some questions. That'd be great. But without further ado, the mother of holistic medicine, Nani, good to see you.
Good to see you, Blake.
Well, I want to first of all, maybe you can take a little bit of time and explain to people how you got started and why do people call you the mother of holistic medicine?
Well, it depends on where you, excuse me, want me to start. I started out my life in India, so there's that whole story. But then even at that time, when I was 2 years old, I knew I had to be a doctor. In fact, I told my parents I was a doctor, so take care of that. So from then on, it was really important for me to keep my eye on what it was that I knew was my job to do this lifetime. So I came to the States and I went to school and I got married and I had a family and I started a practice in Ohio with my husband, and then we came to Arizona and started the ARE clinic here in Phoenix in 1955. And while we were doing that, Bill McGarey, who was my husband, was writing a letter called Pathways to Health. That was a newsletter that went to people who were thinking things that were a little bit different from what the community was thinking. And one day we got a letter from a mailman in Maine. And he said, I got your Pathways to Health. And for 3 months, I've been struggling with my ankle. It's been killing me. And nobody can do anything about it. Nobody knows what's wrong with it. But you were talking about putting a castor oil pack on your neck if you had a sore throat. So I put a castor oil pack on my neck and my ankle got okay. And he said, if you have any idea why that happened, and Bill and I looked at each other, we said, we haven't a clue. I mean, why would putting a castor oil pack on your neck cure your ankle? So in the next letter that went out, Bill wrote this whole thing up and he says, if anybody out there has any idea why that would happen, let us know. And we got a letter back from a Dr. Ian Urquhart in Italy. And he said, if you guys knew anything about acupuncture, you would know that that this meridian starts up like this, it goes on down through the neck to the ankle. So when the energy was cleared in the neck, it cleared in the ankle. And then we looked at each other and we said, and what's this acupuncture stuff? So then we began looking into that, and we had the first, in 73, we had the first acupuncture symposium in the United States at Stanford. And so, little by little, this has come along, but you live a long time and a lot of things happen.
That's true, right?
Babies get born like in the family.
Right. I think it's really interesting that people look at you and they look at holistic medicine and the first question that I used to get when I would tell people about you, and I've known you now for over 20 years, as when I first met my wife to be, who is she's related to you and through marriage. And when I first would tell people I know Dr. Gladys McGarey, and they're like, holistic medicine, is that the same as traditional Western medicine? What's the difference between the two, and why is it so important that you've incorporated that into your actual medical practice over the years?
Well, it's actually holistic medicine doesn't really drop, conventional medicine, but it says, okay, conventional medicine has its part. That's the MD-DO part of medicine. But there's another dimension to health and health care that I wasn't taught in medical school. That is the aspect of our body. We're a triune being. We're body, mind, and spirit. So the medical community was really good at taking care of the body and the mind. It was, in fact, in World War II is about when the mind began to come into the whole picture. But the spirit was, nobody paid any attention to that. It was kind of, woo-woo, if you please. But not in my mind, because my parents were medical missionaries in India. So I was coming at it from childhood into another aspect of what I thought medicine was all about. And so when we began to look at this, we thought, all right, there are ways in which energy, the body energy, has to deal with the mental aspect of our being and the spiritual aspect. There's all of this that needs to come into it. And so we started the American Holistic Medical Association. Of course, it took us 2 years to decide how to spell it, because with whether it was a W or an H, but we finally realized that what we were the root word that we were talking about was that of health, healing, and holy. So it had to be an H. So what we were saying is, okay, this is holistic medicine. It involves the total being, the inner aspect of ourselves, what I call the inner physician, which is what knows what's going on within us and what we can do about it. And there are many, many times when conventional medicine is part of the whole thing. So it doesn't rule out conventional medicine. It says, okay, it's not the modality, it's the reason for which you're doing that modality. What is it that you're reaching for? What is it you're doing in relationship to this body of ours that needs to be addressed?
I was going to say, one of your original books and one of your most well-known books is The Physician Within.
Yes.
Which I've always found over the years extremely fascinating, and it goes to your point where, if you're well, tell us a little bit more about it in your own words, what that really means, and we'll let you drink.
Water's important.
It is. I agree.
We're mostly water anyway, but it means to me that I, as a person, you as a person, we're individuals. We're people who are, there's no one else like us in the world. In fact, I kind of like to think of it as a jigsaw puzzle. We're a piece of that jigsaw puzzle. And no other piece fits in there. I've tried. You pound it and you do it, it doesn't do anything. There's no other piece that fits that. So you fit in your space and I fit in my space. And there are things that go wrong or go right or whatever it is that we are in control of. My oldest son is a retired orthopedic surgeon. And when he was ready to start his practice, he came through Phoenix and he says, "Mom, I'm real scared." He says, "I'm going to go into this world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. I don't know if I can handle that." And I said, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But it's your job to do what you've been trained to do, which is amazing. Orthopedic surgery is absolutely amazing." I think that's amazing. You do your job and then support the patient as they do their job of healing. Because all healing comes from within each one of us. And no matter how much we manipulate the outside, which is helpful and not helpful or whatever, it's how we take that in and how we deal with it that makes a difference. I mean, you can spend your life eating a really awful diet and wonder why you have problems. I mean, there's certain things that are kind of pretty obvious,
Yeah.
Or you can do something about the diet and change that around. And sometimes amazing things happen. And in Arizona, sometimes you try to start drinking water and amazing things happen.
Great point. Well, let me ask you this, and I'm just going to make this point of a lot of the people probably listening in today. A lot of us, youngsters, even though I'm over the age of 50 now, but but I know I'm look, I look at you and you're 102 years old. You don't look much different from the day that I met you about 25 years ago, which is mind-boggling to me. But then again, I understand the life you live and how you live your life. And so, for those of us that are in the workforce, we're in the rat race, if you will. Yeah. What suggestions would you give us that live, maybe some fairly stressful lives? What suggestions would you give us to live, to have a great chance of living a long and healthy life, such as yourself?
Well, for one thing, if you can, spend some time outdoors in nature, as much of nature as you can handle, breathing the air outside is amazing. You need to exercise. You don't really, life itself, the very aspect of life itself has to keep moving. If you stop moving life, you die. So movement is really important. However you intend to do it, however you actually can do it, is something that is again, personal. If you can have some kind of exercise that makes you want to sing, or you're out in the woods or something like it, it's just amazing. But there are a lot of us who can't get out there. So, you may be walking around with a walker, which I am, and in my house. So I have things to look at in my house, but I got a lot of stuff to think about when I'm walking around in my house. And there's music we can listen to. There's so many things that we can choose. No. There are so many things that we do choose repeatedly to enhance our lives. And that only we can do. There isn't anybody else can make. I mean, nobody's going to keep me from eating some chocolate if I want to. And that kind of thing. But there are these aspects of life which we personally know, that's not really very good for us. As I grew up in medical school, everybody was smoking. I mean, everybody was smoking. I wasn't, but everybody was.
Yeah.
And it was considered the right thing to do. If you were some kind of a person, you smoked. Well, now we know better. So as our awareness of what's good for us emerges, let's find out what works for me.
Yeah. Well, Nani, and just so everybody knows, and I'm gonna give some people your some personal information here. You happen to be upstairs right now. You're 102 years old. You made it up the stairs, and you do it every day, probably multiple times a day. And you drink coffee. You do eat chocolate, and so and so I think when you become a little bit older, you start thinking about, well, where. I'm prohibited to do this or prohibited to do that. I'm too old to do this or that or the other thing. What do you say to those people?
Well, what do you choose how do you choose to deal with that? Because you have choices to make. There's even some of the verboten foods like chocolate are now being created in ways that are not harmful for you. So do some research. You've got a mind, work on it. Find out what works for you. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Or if you find out that, well, I don't know, then do some more research and find out if the I don't know is how it works for you.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your 5 L's, and I want because in this conversation with the 5 L's that you really I want to say your universe kind of moves around, and we had somebody, Toby, said the 6th L is actually listening right now, so just so you know that Toby says that to you. But can you tell us a little bit about the 5 L's and what it means to you? As a physician, as a person, go ahead.
Well, yeah. For years, I was my mind was trying to it was looking for a foundation on which I could build some sort of a structure that I could talk about. And I don't know when it's happened, but some place along the line, I came up with these 5 L's. And the first L is life. Without life, you don't have anything. There's nothing there. But with life is like a little seed with a shell around it. And all the energy of the universe is in that little seed. That energy is there. And you can take a seed out of the pyramid and start watering it and taking care of it, and it often will grow. It's that kind of energy that is life itself. And so the first L is life. But the second L is love. Because life without love or taking care of that seed is just stuck. And if you're stuck, you can't live, you can't grow, you can't do the things that need to happen when you're alive. So the second L is life. The third L is laughter. Laughter without love is cruel, it's cold, it's mean. But laughter with love is happiness and it's joy. It's what makes you, feel good.
Yeah.
It's that feel good stuff. The fourth one is labor. I got to go to work. I got to get up at 3:00 in the morning and look at this computer or whatever it is. You drag yourself to it because it's hard, it's work. But laughter with love is bliss. It's why a singer sings, why a painter paints. It's why I went into medicine, why you go into this kind of stuff that makes your heart sing. It's that calling that talks the individual person. And that is the L that's labor. It's duty. It's just real hard to do. But when you do it, wow, And the fifth one is listening. Listening without love is empty sound. If I have a patient who comes into the end of my office, I'm not seeing patients right now, but if I have a patient come into the office and I didn't listen to what they were telling me, what good would it do? It's just empty sound if you don't listen. It's that ability to listen to what the patient is saying, but to what the world is saying, to what the science is saying, what music is saying, what your neighbor is saying, what the kids are screaming at you. It's that kind of listening that is a growing process within us as we reach out and grow. The 5 L's are all associated with love, which is essential in all of them, because that's where we grow and where we live and where we become people who are associated with life.
So when I'm sorry, I was just pulling up one thing and I'm doing it. Actually, it's for you a little in here in just a little bit. But I wanted to ask with the 5 L's, you've seen obviously over your 102 years of life, you've seen this world evolve quite a bit, and we live in a world where with social media, with the onslaught of the internet's brought a lot of great things to the world, obviously, but it's also brought some hate and nastiness. How do you see the world today and how it's evolved, and how does it make you feel?
Sad and glad, because there's so many things, like being able to do this, being able to talk to people who I'll never have the opportunity of meeting or seeing, but we can communicate. I mean, when I was growing up, there was nobody had a telephone. Only the school had a telephone. And I can never figure out who they were talking to anyway, because it was the only phone on the hill. And so we had other ways of communicating. But the whole concept of how we have evolved to fusion, really, there are things that have evolved in science in the world that are absolute. I would never have thought that I could have been doing something like this. However, along with it goes the type of thing that people can listen to if they choose, and how they extrapolate from that what it is that they want to hear. In other words, if murder mysteries are something that you want to watch, and that's, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying if that's what, and what you see, here's the thing I've been thinking. These young people who are killing each other in the classrooms, what is it that has entered into their being that they don't understand about death. And I was talking to a psychologist just a while back, and she said when she was working with somebody like this, they said, look, we watch TV and we watch somebody be killed, and the next day we watch TV and that person's back. And the next day we watch TV, that same person is back. It's hard for us to know about death. So with the good comes the bad. But if we who are in the position to work with other people can actually take the good and enhance that, so that's what they want to work with, you know, and can begin to incorporate the good in a way that it becomes healing, not killing. So it's, you know, I have a friend who said, you know, what we need in the classrooms is not guns. We need dogs. Just think about it. We've got therapy dogs, the soldiers are using dogs. Oh, yeah. Everybody's using them. Why not therapy? Well, guardian dogs in the classroom, where, you know, if there was a good guardian dog, I'm telling you, all kinds of good things would happen. I first started thinking about this about 15 years ago when a friend of mine said, she was a school teacher, and she said, you know, one of the best years I had was when I had a dog in the classroom. That dog would never go near a child that was afraid of dogs. But if the child stopped being afraid, it would go. But if there was anybody in the room who was having problems, that dog was right by their side. And it's that kind of understanding about life. Now, if these children have no love in their life, how are they going to know what is associated with death? More guns? I don't think so. But more love, that I can work with.
You know, and I hate to interrupt, Nani, but you know, I've watched you as you know, over the years, over the last two and a half decades, raise the most spectacular and the most spectacular family through your kids and the extensions of all of them, your grandkids, your great grandkids, and really, I would say what I see the most is an abundance, and maybe in sometimes overabundance of love. And you've managed to produce the most beautiful family I've ever had the opportunity to experience.
Well, you know, love does that. Love grows. Love teaches. Love. If you love somebody, you want to give. So it's a give and take. You learn and you teach, and you teach and you learn. And it's that sort of thing. So, and people who have opportunities to work with animals like dogs and horses know that. But sometimes it's a hamster that is a little something that somebody can love. We need to be able to love something. And if children are deprived of something to love, they don't know. In a book that I'm writing now, I know I've spent hours with this writer trying to explain what love is. And we finally, after hours of putting it in different contexts and working with it and trying things, we finally said, if you haven't experienced it, you just don't know. It's trying to tell somebody the difference between the color green and turquoise. If you haven't experienced some of these vibratory differences in life, you just don't know. And so if you have a situation where there are children who are being raised without love, they don't know.
That is an outstanding point. I want to go back to the topic of living a healthy lifestyle. And I think a lot of people, as they get older, it's interesting. I've had multiple conversations with my wife, as you know, Lisa, really well. As we turn 50, we're like, wow, we need to do this while we're young, while we physically can do this, we need to do that. And I constantly am reminded when I look at you, and again, I've known you for so many years now. Back in 2006, we had American soldiers in Afghanistan. And I remember when your daughter, who's married to my father-in-law, she came to us and she said, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this, but my mom is going to go to Afghanistan to teach women how to self-birth in Afghanistan, and we're literally fighting a war over there. We can't let her go." And you went. And it was 2006. You took off for Afghanistan at the age of 86, 85. 86. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Tell us about that experience and why you did it, and your experience of traveling the world when you were at that age, and you did it.
My brother, Carl, was head of Future Generations, which is an organization that he started, and he was a professor at Johns Hopkins. But he'd started this global group, which was also situated in Afghanistan. And they were at that time looking at the maternal mortality rate around the world. And it was higher in Afghanistan than any place else. And they couldn't figure out why, because for one thing, they had no access to the women to talk to them because they were all in Perth. They didn't talk to men, or they were secluded. But it was they couldn't get any information about how come this was happening. So I was just getting ready to retire from practice. Helene was ready to take over the other practice. And so he said, if you could get into the zananas, into where the women are, maybe you could get some answers. And so I thought, oh yeah, this is exactly right. I might even get to see Mount Everest and stuff. So anyway, I went, and it was amazing. We would have a week-long time in which we would have women come into a home, and we would live with them. We'd stay with them. It was interesting. We had to ask the men, of course, for permission to do this, and they said no, until Dr. Shukriya, who was the Afghani woman physician who I was working with, said to the men, well, the women we're looking for are your mothers-in-law. So that was okay. So, and fortunately, that's exactly the people we were looking for. They were the ones who'd had the babies and knew what had happened, So we would have a week-long session with these women. We ate with them and slept with them, and it was amazing. Women are really all world of they're the same the world over, but they have ways of expressing it. And we found out what was going on. When a woman became pregnant, she was told that she could not eat, the calcium producing foods, eggs, carrots, foods that, would build the bones and all of that. So they were deprived, minerally deprived. They were told when they went into labor, they weren't allowed anything to drink or eat. So you've got a starved woman in labor. And when it came to being able to push the baby out, they had no energy to do that. So somebody from outside would push the baby out. So now you had ruptured uterus, just all kinds of bodily damage, really. And women died and babies died. And so what Shukriya and I did was they knew nothing about what happened. They knew how they got pregnant, but then it was magic going on in here. So we explained the whole process to them about how the sperm came up and met the egg and how the baby developed and all of that. I drew pictures on I had a little piece of blackboard, and I had a piece of chalk, and explained to them the whole process the best I could. And these are not stupid women. They were ignorant, but they weren't stupid. And they got it. They just absolutely got it. One woman said to me, "How many sperm?" I said, "Millions." She says, "How many eggs?" And I said, "1." And that egg gets to choose which sperm it wants. These women put their shoulders back and set up like, "Whoa, we have some choice in this whole thing we never knew we had." It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I mean, I have other stories about it, but it just was one. And so there were, we thought the first one we thought we'd have about 20 women. 50 women showed up. So we had to send, the place couldn't handle that many. So, but we did handle 20. And then the next time it was 30. But then these women went to their villages and taught. They taught what they learned. That's what life's all about. It's about, if we learn something that teaches us how to deal with some certain things, it's our opportunity and our privilege to teach it. And this was the part of Afghanistan where the Taliban had bombed out the big Buddhas. They had these huge, it was that part of Afghanistan. Rural, people had been, that part of Afghanistan had been in war from the Russians, and then it's very sad. Actually, Future Generations is still working there, but the maternal mortality rate has changed. They're no longer the most mortality rate. They have changed. That's because amazing. Women teach women. Women, we can't help it. If we find out something, we teach it. And sometimes it's something that maybe shouldn't be taught, but it's just the way we do. It's the way we live.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing that you did it. And just again, going back to the point of you traveling at the age of 86, I want everybody to realize that it can be done. And for people, that are, living their lives thinking, well, I need to do this before I'm too old. Well, you're never too old. I mean, Nani, you and I, we were in Athens, Greece at the Acropolis together about 8 years ago. I want to say roughly.
I guess something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. We traveled Greece. You spent 3 weeks traveling most of Greece, and even though you weren't around with us drinking ouzo at night, you were out and about everywhere else.
I've lost you. Are you?
Can you hear us?
I can see it. Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I was just saying, even though you weren't, you might not have been with us in the evenings, late in the evenings, enjoying ourselves. You traveled everywhere with us. In Greece, and you did it.
Why not?
Why not? Exactly. I've seen you in the grocery store randomly up until a couple of years ago. So,
yeah.
But if you have any questions for Dr. Gladys, please feel free to write them. I've got a couple of comments that just people thanking you. Patrick really thanks you for your time, and BR also says thank you. And Tulin said the spine points connect to all other points. That's
Absolutely.
what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you have any comments about the spine?
Oh my. How much do you want
How much
longer?
time? Go
No,
ahead.
but the way the human body is created is such an awesome thing that it needs to be studied. It needs to be worked with your back. Hello. So it carries the energy of the whole body up to every place it needs to go. And so when a person stands as tall as they can, the body feels better. If you are slumped or if you're sitting in front of a computer for long periods of time, the spine gets crumpled, it gets pushed down, and that's not good. So you can pull yourself together and get out. I would say, I don't know, but I think it would be a good idea if somebody who was, because I don't know about computers or anything, but I'm talking, just listen to me. I think if you had a marker that said to you, maybe every half hour, I get up and I walk for 10 minutes, or every half hour, or even if it's every, whatever it is that you choose, but you find a time in your schedule where you actually get up and you move around and not just back and forth. That's fine if you do that. But you walk, you stretch, you move, go outside, breathe some, sit in the sun or sit in the, do something that allows you to really, really let your body enjoy what's out there or what's in there. If you can't get outdoors, then what's in your house, It's a choice, but it's really important. And your spine is important in that.
That's great wisdom. I think it's, for those of us that are sedentary in front of our computer for so many hours in the day, I really, really think you should take heed to that generous wisdom from Dr. Gladys. Toby writes in, medicine was great back before DuPont regulated it back in the 30s. Raymond Rife, cancer cures, Otto Warburg showing cancer cells don't survive pure oxygen, et cetera, all pre-penicillin. Now 60% of the medical diagnoses are inaccurate. Einstein said to Tesla that the future of medicine is bioelectrical. Do you see these wearables as a bright future or better healing or kit like Spooky to Home Royal Rife Scholar Plasma Kit? How do you see bioelectrical in the future? Oops, sorry about that.
I think that the future is evolving, and mistakes have been made as we look back on that. Like when I was in medical school, we did twilight sleep for women, for crying out loud. I mean, completely anesthetized them. And, the Afghani women, we were doing the same thing because we were delivering babies with forceps because we had medicated them so they wouldn't feel any pain. So somewhere along the line, we've decided that pain is our enemy. Pain isn't our enemy. Pain is our messenger. And if we start looking for what the messenger is telling us, then we can deal with it. Now, these other things that are coming along have their good side and they have their bad side. Again, it's not the modality that's wrong. It's the reason for using that modality that's wrong. So if a person is using it just because it's the only way they know how to do it, that's one thing. And maybe it's helping and maybe it isn't. But maybe you're at a point where you can start looking for some other way. Like, for instance, listening to a person's dreams. and listening to what they have to say to themselves about what's going on in their lives. I mean, the whole process of physicians being the end point at which you stop is something that that I think we need to think about, because within me and within you is that aspect of our being that sometimes says, well, I don't know about that. And when we begin to question it, that's time to do some research and not just throw it out because you stopped questioning, but find out about it. Find out about how it relates to you, how it relates to your way of doing things and so on. And you might find that there's just a part of it that you totally discard or don't want, but there's a part of it that, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, so I've found that new things that come along, I pay attention to, and sometimes I accept them and sometimes I don't.
Okay. That's fair enough. A question came in from Bhavana, which I think is a great question. What's your advice on meditation?
Oh, wow. I think anybody who can actually understand that the allowing our bodies and mind and spirit to quiet down and just be has stepped into a place that is sacred and can do amazing things to help. Meditation is huge.
Okay, I was just going to say, to sum that up, meditation is really critical. I would assume, and that's great to hear. Brand had asked about any questions about or any comments about specific personal health, or I'm sorry, advice on exercise and body movements. Does any advice you'd have there?
Yeah, move. Yeah, what works for you? You know, you may have a bad knee, so you can't do a lot of things, but you may not have a bad knee. And but you know, it's what you can do. When I built this house 35 years ago, I wanted an upstairs because I said to myself, you know, if I'm going to live, I don't know how long I'm going to live. I really don't, you know, whatever. But if I'm going to live a long time, I need to be just going up and down stairs. I go up and down these stairs all the time. And it's good for me to do that. So
and just so everybody knows, I went up those stairs just a couple of days ago, and it's not like a couple of stairs. Absolutely amazing. You know, I know we've taken. Oh, go ahead. What you can do. Okay.
Just what you
do. Tulin asks, so what is your preferred method of determining what your body is trying to tell you? Do you believe in self-healing?
That's all it is. There is no healing besides self-healing. No matter how much you are using from the outside, in the long run, you heal yourself. Self-healing is amazing, but if that's what you think everything has to be and that you know it all, sometimes you have to double think, because other people know things too. And if you can listen to something and it rings true to you and you think, well, let me try, you know, but you can take, you know, I can tell a patient what I think they should do. All right. They can either take that or not. If they take it and they use it, it's self-healing. If they don't, then that's all right too, because maybe that's self-healing. Maybe they know something about their body that has passed me. I haven't understood, or something like that. It's a matter of actually accepting that you are totally, no matter what the problem is. You know, it's like I told my son, you do the orthopedic surgery, but the patient does the healing. And the surgeon's job, or any physician's job, is to support the patient as they do their own healing. So self-healing, yes, I believe in self-healing, but I don't think that self-healing by itself is the answer to all things, because we don't know all things and other people do. So we have to, it's a process of sharing and working together and finding out and learning to what we can learn and teaching what we can teach and so on. That's life. Life has to move.
You know, I know we're wrapping things up here, but I've just put in a link to one of the books that were released when I, you know, a few years after I first met you, and it's called The Physician Within, and I think that's a great book. It was a blockbuster book, big seller that you had, and I think it's a book that everybody should get. But let me allow for you to talk about your most recent book, the one that's coming out, and I'm going to share my screen so you can talk a little bit about it. Nani, this is The Well-Lived Life. Can you tell us a little bit about this book? And I'm going to put the link in our chat box right now. So go ahead.
Okay. It's the first time I've ever worked with a ghostwriter, and it's been an amazing experience because she and I get to discuss concepts that I've had and worked with, and then put it into language that people can understand. So it has, I'm presenting it as 6 secrets to a well-lived life at any age. In other words, it's a way in which I have been able to express certain healing concepts and processes that I think that people will be able to understand. It's not a medical book. My last book, Living Medicine Beyond Holistic, is a medical book, but this is not. It's concepts. It's working with how we as people live our lives. And so I've chosen 6 secrets, which will be written out, you know, and worked with in different ways in which you can work with those secrets in order to understand that particular concept that we're working with at the time.
Nani, this I know we're, like I said, we're getting close to wrapping things up, but I want to obviously suggest to everybody that this book is it's being written. It releases in May, but if you order the book, pre-order the book, you'll be one of the first ones as it gets on. It's distributed in May. So you want to get somebody a nice holiday gift, The Physician Within You, and then The Well-Lived Life. And we didn't time this, just so you all know, that I've actually been in discussions over the last year or two. Every time we see each other at a holiday breakfast or lunch or dinner, I keep telling her, like, we're going to have you on, do a show around you, just because I think you're so inspirational to not only myself, but to so many people around the world, that I want everybody to hear your story, and I want to help promote that. But this book that you've been working on, it's really, I think, going to be part of an important part of your legacy. But I want to talk a little. How should I say, put you up on a pedestal even more than more. You've been a physician, personal physician of a lot of celebrities. And I remember I remember having was it maybe like Christmas dinner or Easter dinner or whatever it was, and I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Oh, what's your name? Oh, I'm the Bionic Woman. I'm like, what?
Lindsay Wagner.
Lindsay Wagner. I'm like, oh, look, I'm sitting next to Lindsay Wagner at dinner. This is great. But you've been a personal physician of many celebrities over the years. How's that as an experience? Just
It's
so we know.
It's amazing. They're real people, they're real people doing real things. And it's just amazing that they become good friends.
And it's been really fascinating to watch. It really is.
It is. It's how people have been able to live lives that are out in the public all the time, and still be honest and good people. And people are wonderful.
Well, Nani, just I do a little bragging about you. Just let everybody know you were just on a tricycle on stage just two weeks ago, maybe.
I guess so. Yeah,
about two weeks ago or so. So look, if Nani can do it, you all at home can do it too. Any words you like to leave with us? Any last minute thoughts that we as human beings on planet Earth can live a better life by?
Well, I didn't even mention it, but pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. Your unconscious mind is trying to tell you things. And I've found great help in helping patients by working with their dreams.
That is, thank you for providing us with that. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, Nani, you're just a wonderful person. I've been so inspired by knowing you and having it's been it's been really a pleasure and an honor for me to been associated with you for over a couple of decades. And I just hope that everybody that's listening in here, and I know a lot of people are going to be watching the recording, and I hope it's inspired those of you listening to live a better and more healthy and more loving life too.
And I want to thank you, Blake, for being able to just do this. That it can happen in the world. I mean,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Amazing. It's a wow. Life is a wow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful next week or so before I see you for the Christmas holiday.
Christmas holiday, yeah. Christmas dinner.
Yeah, and Christmas dinner. Happy holidays for all of you all listening in. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to spend with Dr. Gladys. And Dr. Gladys, you're getting just bombarded with thank yous, and you're so inspirational. And I hope we can do this in a year after you turn 103.
All right, we'll see.
All right. Thank you, Nani.
Okay, thank you, Blake.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.